All right. We have really had just such a fantastic mix of topics and perspectives today. We've heard about offers and orders. We've heard about NDC, collaboration, AI, revenue management. And now we're here to sort of bring it all together with perspective from 3 different entities about their strategies and their approach to flight selling. So I am delighted to be joined by Kiera Haining from Hopper, Michael Harbin from Traverse Technologies, and Manish Nagpal from Spotnana. So welcome to the 3 of you. Before we get into our discussion, I'd love to just start with each of you briefly telling us about your company and your role. So Kiera, if you can get us started.
Sure. Thanks, Mitra. I'm Kiera, so I'm coming from Hopper. Hopper is a global travel platform that powers the Hopper app, as well as several of our partners' direct channels through our B2B arm, HTS. The Hopper platform powers roughly multiple hundreds of millions of customers annually, and we also have developed a proprietary suite of fintech products that address numerous pain points in the market, anywhere from price volatility to flexibility and travel disruption. So my role at Hopper is I oversee our transportation business and travel, so that manages all of our partner relationships across air, hotel, and ground transportation from an agency side as well as a B2B partnership side. So looking forward to being here today.
Okay, wonderful. Michael.
Yeah, sorry for the glare, just for the record. Thank you for having us here. Super excited to be here. We partner with suppliers and corporations to help them navigate and traverse, if you will, the omni-channel marketplace. We help them really realize the benefit and the value of enabling true direct experiences in their corporate travel program. We provide a wonderful set of robust set of microservices and user experiences that really empower and enable suppliers to convert and turn their current existing web mobile apps for consumers into very powerful and robust corporate booking engines and ecosystems for corporations and partners of all size and all use cases. And we do this for the purpose of really empowering them and without getting in their way of the supplier, the corporation, the traveler user experience or relationship. That's critical. As Vasu mentioned earlier, it's really about the North Star and that traveler experience and allowing that traveler to have the ability, the permission, the joy to use their preferred travel brand directly without any breaking of rules and without leaving their travel program. So that's what we provide today for the marketplace.
Okay, wonderful. We'll talk more about that. And Manish.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thanks ARC and ATPCO for the event and giving us the opportunity to be here. And it's very hard to go after Vasu Rajar. We will try our best to keep you guys engaged. I'm Manish Nagpal, head of engineering at Spotnana. Most of my career, I've been architecting and building NDC solutions. And my journey came full circle at Spotnana, where we are engaged not just consuming, but retailing that content to the travelers. Most of you ask, what is Spotnana? Is it an OBT, like Concur? Is it a TMC? Is it an aggregator? Or a technology provider? The truth is, we are all of the above and more. And that's why we have to actually invent our own terminology called TaaS, Travel as a Service. We want to be AWS for travel.
Okay, wonderful. So, let's start with what we have heard again and again today, which is that need for a traveler-centric ecosystem with personalized, relevant offers. You mentioned what Vasu said about the North Star. I heard Josephine from Amadeus who said, when the passenger is happy, everyone wins. So I'd like to start by talking about how, with the continued need to address connectivity fragmentation in the market, how are you working to keep the focus on the traveler and to ensure that you're delivering maximum value? And really, anyone want to get us started on that?
Well, it's hard to follow that, but it's also hard to follow the kernel, so for the record. Happy wife, happy life, happy traveler, happy ecosystem. And we really focus on the user experience for, in this case, the suppliers, and really allowing them to have their user experience not interrupted, but mainly front and center. It's their differentiation, it's their product, it's their butts in their seats, so to speak, and allowing them to use their existing tool set experiences, but enable that with the corporate wrapper to allow people to go direct or indirect and have that seamlessness of data flow and user experience and servicing is critical, because end of the day, if the traveler can have a frictionless, joyful experience, everybody wins.
Yeah. Kiera,
I'll add on to that. I think, we're constantly working backwards from customers, and I think the way to do that is start at the source, right, and have a very close line of communication with your customers everywhere from point of first shop, right, and what they're looking for, what their unique travel demands are, how competitive is the offering that you're able to show to them, and obviously, we've talked a lot today about value creation. We heard from United, American, Delta, and Air France as well of what that value creation looks like from the airline standpoint. And I think I see the role of OTAs and other marketplaces like ourselves up here, right, is bridging that gap of value creation with the customer experience, right, and how to merchandise and showcase these suppliers, brands, and products in the way that presents the right offer to the right customer at the right time to maximize sales and growth and minimize friction. And so that's something that we're always constantly working backwards from. And I think that timing component is also really critical, is understanding. It's also a data flow perspective, like you said as well, right? How do you share data and consumer preferences back and forth between airlines and your consumers to really make sure you're bridging that gap and making sure the value created in your ecosystem is maximized? And I think that flows all the way through servicing as well, and making sure that the digitized servicing products that we're offering really follows through with customer expectations. So,
yeah. And I'm curious, Manish, I mean, you're kind of the young startup in the group here, right? The youngest, so you really built from scratch. So has that given you the opportunity to address some of this?
Actually, yes. We were fortunate that, we started in 2019, where the content was so fragmented, and we built that platform in this fragmented content, right? And we built it and we made certain decisions, right? So our philosophy is bring simplicity, freedom, and trust to the traveler. And what I mean by that, you go to AWS, you don't even think twice. You just look for what you want. You know your content is going to be there at the right price point. You buy it with confidence because you know you can return it, you can exchange it very easily without talking to anybody. And that's the same experience and trust we are talking about at Spotnana. And it's not easy because you need to make commercial and technical decisions to build that trust. What I mean by that, commercially, I think we are and again, we made a conscious decision not to take any GDS incentives so that we can display all the GDS, NDC, direct, LCC content unbiased, and all of it on the same screen. I remember, sorry I'm taking more time, but I remember in this conference 2017, American Thai from United, he was at United at that time, Neil from American and Jeff from Delta presented a screen. They said, this is what we want, aggregated content in one single screen. And I would say I joined Spotnana and said, wow, they did more than what airlines were asking for. They have more fare families than even airline websites. So that's our philosophy, and we are truly committed to it.
And so when we talk about this idea of a more, Amazon-esque experience and more personalized, certainly when I think about going on Amazon, Amazon knows me, knows what I've ordered in the past, is able to make recommendations. One of the things certainly that we've been covering quite a bit and heard a lot about is this idea of digital identity solutions, and the idea that it creates the opportunity for the customer to own their information, to have that profile and persona that then can be used across whatever they may want to do in travel and elsewhere. And I'm just wondering, is that potentially part of the roadmap to some of this? And Michael, I know you've done some work on this.
Yeah, super excited about this. And I think it's critically important today in this kind of decentralized, evolving world. We tend to focus really on ID. There's self-sovereign ID that's talked about from a government or a big entity perspective. And do you really want a government or a large entity to control your ID? I know I don't. Yeah. It's mine. It should be the humans or the individuals. So we already today work with suppliers, corporations to do the ID authentication. Who are you? What corporation are you tied to? What are your preferences? What's your profile? What are you able to do as far as corporate discounts and policies, all those dynamic things you want to have dynamic in the actual workflow. But we firmly believe at Traverse and for the industry as a whole to allow the ID management, ownership, even multi-factor authentication and the profile itself to live and belong to the traveler, the human. And that can be transported decentralized from any one entity, whether that be a TMC, a GDS, an OTA, ourselves, an airline. They should live within your realm of control, kind of like the crypto methodology where you own your crypto, you own your keys, it's your data. So if you're at ABC company today and you're at XYZ company tomorrow, that lives with you. But then you allow those permissions to connect to your service providers, airline X, Y, and Z, Netflix, Amazon, whomever else. And then you have an ecosystem of data sharing that you can control and manage. So it alleviates a lot of the pressure points of GDPR and ownership and control and security, and it puts you in control of how you obfuscate, how you manage, how you normalize, and even eventually how you monetize.
Right.
So,
and maybe eventually, then we don't deal with data breaches and things in the future, right? If the customer is owning their own data and the suppliers are not having to maintain all of it in a big database somewhere.
Well, think of it this way. Today, blockchain technology is very critical. Whether you use it or not, that depends on a lot of use cases. But if you have your own blockchain, or you have your own side chain, and you have your own keys, and you have that highly encrypted, and you have a longer chain, more security. They're now working on methodologies to make those, quantum resistant. Apple recently updated their iMessage to be quantum resistant. So it's an interesting methodology. Yeah. Plus, we talk about, the ability to have, universal income.
Right.
Today, who monetizes you and your data? Not you. Right. It's Google, it's Facebook, it's these big entities. And you sign off your right every time you do your EULA, your checkbox, you give away your property, your assets, your time, your breadcrumbs. And that's not right.
Yeah. Kiera, I'm wondering, how are you thinking about this concept of more like customized, personalized offers in the realm? Of course, a big portion of Hopper is the leisure customer who may not be traveling as much. Mm-hmm. And any thoughts about what you could be doing there or what's on your roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're always trying to offer a more tailored experience to our customers. One of the unique things about Hopper as an OTA is that we're actually purely a collection of closed user groups. So already we have that closed user group ecosystem, whether it be the mobile app where a very high percentage of customers who are booking on that app are actually logged in and have created that profile and have loaded their payment details, their airline loyalty status, things like that. And then, of course, Capital One Travel, which we power as well, those are our closed user groups. And so there's a very unique opportunity for us to, again, work more closely, especially in an NDC world, to share some of that data to understand the customer persona, to present a more relevant and more targeted offer. And so we're certainly exploring what that looks like and leveraging some of the unique capabilities that come with being a mobile-first travel platform, right? So how can you use push notifications to, again, address that timing aspect that I said before of how do you reach the right customer at that right point in time that can help sway them one way or another to, onboard into an airline loyalty program or sign up for a loyalty program or reach them with that targeted offer that might sway them one way or another. So there's very interesting capabilities there that can be unlocked with having more access to this digital persona, which the customer is voluntarily sharing, their preferences, their loyalty programs, and connecting that with an airline and supply that meets those needs. So we're keeping a very close eye on that and investing heavily in unlocking those work streams.
Okay. We heard a very spirited discussion earlier with Jeff Klee from Amtrav and Sarah Reed from Delta. If you missed that, be sure to watch the video once they make that available. And I heard Jeff say that he called NDC the last best hope to fix the problem of travelers getting an inferior experience on third-party sites. So I would love to just hear each of you talk about, what does the development of NDC mean for you? And Manish, maybe if you can get us started. I know in your past life you helped develop some NDC, right, for United, yes. And now you're on the other side?
Yes. So actually, that's a good point, because first I will say what are the advantages of NDC, right? So we usually talk about, NDC is a standard, content, surcharges, exclusive content. But to me, the biggest advantage is having the direct relationship with the airlines. Our engineering teams can have now a direct access to airline is huge. And why I say that? Because in an innovative world, you keep on innovating. Our corporate customers, our big enterprise customers are now asking airlines, okay, I understand you have your loyalty point, but I want to give something for my own enterprise. I want to create some groups, and the airlines are listening. What I'm trying to say is that direct relationship with the airlines of the engineering team, product team, and able to keep innovating as you go along is the key to me of main benefit of NDC. Of course, you get good content, our servicing is better. We actually measure everything, we are measuring what kind of a error rate we get on a Edifact versus the NDC. On a simple first exchange, NDC works actually a lot better than Edifact. But I'll say the only request to ATPCO and the airlines is think about a fallback. If that service doesn't work, on the Edifact side, agent know what to do. On the NDC side, they have to go and call, and that's a pain. And I think ATPCO can help in a big way. If they can solve that, I think it's really good.
That's part of the evolution here as it goes along, I guess, right? Yeah, Michael, any?
Love your shoes, by the way. Those are cool.
Thank you.
I tend to have a little bit different take on NDC. I think it's great. It's not new anymore. Yeah. We're slow. I know we tend to come up here and pat ourselves on the back and we're doing so great, and but we should also be self-aware and self-serving to the industry and our place in it. It's over 10 years old, now 15 years old. It has its roots back in the 90s with Expedia and then Orbitz kicking in with their Direct Connect supplier links. I was on the team with Alex at Orbitz, building supplier link technology and ITA matrix methodology. We just need to hurry up, and we need to get behind this and stop arguing and talking about it and just doing it. I see a lot of industry people, and I don't want to pick on people, but we tend to be worried about, are we going to piss off the GDS? Are we going to piss off the team seats? Are we going to piss off our fellow, industry, personnel? We got to get over ourselves and just get down to the brass tacks of doing it, because it's beneficial to the traveler experience. It normalizes, it reduces friction, it allows us to have that transfer of user experience, particularly on the servicing side, which is critical. So we got to get over ourselves and just get the damn work done. At some point, it's there. But when we look at the evolution of technology, you look at the adoption cycle of computers and cell phones, and it went from 20 years to 10 years. And you look at blockchain and crypto, it went down to a short amount of years. Then you have, of course, AI, and that went down from years to weeks. Yeah. So we're going to be overtaken, and AI and chatbots and chat agents and AI agents, they could actually revolutionize things so much where the chat agents or the AI agents are doing the work for us, and they're bypassing the OTAs, they're bypassing the TMCs, they're bypassing the GDSs, they're going direct to the content, wherever that may be, and they're getting the work done without a user experience at all. It's just me talking to my agent that knows me, knows my persona, knows my likes and dislikes. So we got to get a move on. We have the intelligence, we have the people. We got to get past the indecision and the issues we tend to hide behind.
Yeah, I think I did hear someone say earlier, and maybe it was Jeff again, that said, in the last year, the move by American has been kind of the kick in the ass, if you will, that everybody needed to kind of get things moving. So it does feel like it's accelerating a bit. You referenced NDC a moment ago as you were talking. I mean, can you just talk a bit more about how that might be fitting into your strategies?
NDC has been a big part of Hopper's strategy for many years now. We've been launch partners with many airlines in the OTA space worldwide over the last couple of years. So we're certainly doubling down and helping as best we can push this forward and help make these integrations and launches as smooth as possible. And I think the short answer is I think we're all aligned that the future of travel does look like NDC, right? The capabilities that it unlocks to iterate quickly, deliver value for customers when things don't work, move forwards, right? But the difference between that vision and where we're at today, there's a bit of a bridge. And like you said, we just need to kind of get down to it. And we really have engaged very, very closely with our partners to make that a reality. But echoing what you said as well around the fallback is also, what allows us to take risks and push technology forward and make sure we're focused on the value creation side. And we're very excited about what the possibilities this unlocks is, everything from, of course, personalization, customization, but also truly working backwards from what customers want to purchase and what they want to spend money on. There's, of course, the baseline product, right? The seat on the plane, but then figuring out how you can cater unbundled or bundled ancillary products or additional benefits on top of that to create the exact right price and offer for the customer is incredibly powerful. And that's something that obviously, we've started to dip our own, toes in the water on with our fintech products. Is we recognize there's a very real need in the market for unbundled levels of flexibility, of protection against price volatility, disruption assistance during day of travel. And we've started to kind of push some of that forward, and we're seeing massive adoption and success for these products across all channels that we operate in, from OTA channels and marketplaces to loyalty and airline direct sites, of course, as well. We're seeing a huge uptick. And so I think NDC is the technology that allows us to really bring this to market and at scale and make those offers and products available to customers, regardless of their channel of choice for booking.
What is, anyone that wants to kind of jump in on this, and we've been kind of talking around this, but the indirect and direct, is that an either or? Is it an and? I mean, how do you see that?
Sorry. And to echo what you're saying, I mean, Hopper's crushing it. And I'm excited about Spotnana to really bring this to an AWS level, which is super cool. It's funny, you hear people on stage this year, last year, and it's always like it's indirect versus or direct. And that shouldn't be. You hear people pontificate, well, my spouse or my partner, they die by using this OBT or online travel agency. It should be indirect and direct. They need to coexist. An supplier, whether it be air car, hotel, they need the multiple tools in their tool bag to satisfy not at a specific direct versus indirect use case, but at an individual use case. Right. And I know I like to use Amazon sometimes to shop, but I other times like to go to Gucci to buy something for my wife, or go to Nike to buy something for myself, because I prefer that brand experience because they know me better. They have different points. They have different methodologies. And sometimes you trust an Amazon, an OTA, because they do great work and they aggregate and you can cross shop. That's all important. But sometimes I need to fly my preferred carrier. I may fly 2 carriers at max, and a lot of corporations, they have 1 or 2 agreements, not 10. And things like lowest logical fare, is that really a red herring? Do you really need it? Is it really powerful? Is it a thing of the past? But it varies by use case. I may today use Amazon or Hopper or Spotnana. Tomorrow I want to go to airline X, Y, or Z because that's just my preferred methodology. So it should be an and. People need to get over themselves. It's not a versus. And I think we can coexist. And there's enough opportunity. And again, putting that North Star, that traveler first, right. They win. Right. And does a traveler care if it's NDC or Edifact? God, I hope not. And I don't think they do. They just want the best service. They want it friction-free and on time and at a good price and seamless. So I think that's important.
Yeah, you just used the word service there, which is something that we heard quite a bit in the earlier sessions today and the importance of the servicing capabilities. And I wondered, Manish, if you can talk to us a bit about that, because certainly in the work, with business travel, service is a really important piece of that.
That's right. And when I was on the other side, providing that technology to the airlines, to building services, I used to think, why somebody needs 3 exchanges, 4 exchanges? Doesn't make sense, And then I came to this side and I said, yes, no, you do. Servicing matters. And it's not just, you have different scenarios. You have, in the corporate world, most of the time, high flyers are on the upgrade list. Yeah. Can you change that? Can you exchange that? They upgrade with the points. Then the exchange fails. So servicing is very important. I realized more coming as a travel seller than the technology provider on the FareLogic side. And I'll reiterate my point. Our whole mission is to have self-service. If you go already, the simple exchanges are as easy as ordering an Uber. The user experience, all of us, right? We'll make user experience as simple as possible, but the back end, the airlines has to support us. Right. Airlines and even GDS, doesn't matter who the content is coming from, whether it's LCC providers, aggregators, but yeah, we will take care of the user experience, but the core back end, and I think ATPico can play a role too.
I think it's funny you talk about that because the back end's hard. And the back end is, it's funny, in corporate, they book single-party PNRs because mid-office, back office, they can only deal with kind of one policy, one traveler at a time. But for servicing, if I have a multi-party, now I got to split PNR and I got to do divide, and it's hard work. And we need to get over that limitation that we're forced with. And we focus on, perfection over progress. It really should be progress first, perfection later, and work on those, 80-20 use cases to get. Because again, we focus so much on that 20%, and then we just slow the entire process down.
Right.
So, sorry.
No. Let's talk a bit now, even more into the future. I'm curious, that you touched on AI and the potential there. I'd love to talk a bit more about that. Kiera, maybe if you can start us off by anything about how you are using generative AI already, or how you're considering using it. As conversational search and what other potential you see for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of these generative models that we're seeing come to market, like ChatGPT and others, are truly going to transform the way that consumers interact and buy things online, from everything, including travel. One of the areas that we've been particularly focused on and where I feel particularly bullish is actually around customer service for AI. So we've actually been testing using a generative model to power voice and chat assistant as a first line of response for customer service. And we're actually seeing that this product is able to self-resolve about 15% of inbound customer contacts with at or above the CSAT of a truly agent-assisted solution. And this is really, it's building trust with customers. The models are so good that it's really building trust with customers for those less, complicated types of requests that are coming in that do overwhelm, customer service, call centers and whatnot. That it truly can make a difference. And I think that one of the areas that I'm particularly looking forward to is seeing some of these models get trained deeper on the intricacies of travel. Travel is complicated. We all know that, right? And especially on the back end side. So making sure that the data that these models are trained on can be specifically utilized in all sorts of travel specific use cases, from trip planning to booking to servicing on the other side, as well as tools for agents as well. I think that it's truly going to transform what a customer service offering looks like, and it's very well timed with kind of the new generation of Gen Z and millennial consumers that are expecting these types of products where they book travel.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the generation, because Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they don't listen. I mean, they don't want to be put into a box of policy or pre-trip approval. They want to do it their way. And these models, whether it's an LLM or large action model, it allows us to start to simulate those methodologies. So there's implementation of how do we put that into practice. But even the simulation ability to take, you take NVIDIA and they have what they call Omniverse. We have Omnichannel, which is really cool, but they have Omniverse, and that's how you start to train and simulate these models. So you could take offers and start to simulate methodologies for best practice for offers or packaging or servicing, and train those models. So by the time it gets to an actual implementation, it's gone through millions and millions of scenarios, and it just knows spot on how to manage that.
Yeah.
And if we don't have, as a marketplace or corporations, have a AI strategy or even thinking about it, we're going to get lost, because it's going to overtake us. But the power there to satisfy and to, operationalize and optimize, cost, revenue, and experience is huge. I mean, just imagine having an AI agent that we can now have today, and it's actually watching over you. It's monitoring flights, it's monitoring flight flow, it's monitoring weather, it's monitoring, alerts across the globe. So it's doing dynamic governance, duty of care on your behalf. Yeah. And if it can interact with these engines dynamically, that's pretty cool.
It is. It is. Manish, anything you want to add? Is it any work that you're doing in this area?
No, I mean, we fully embrace it. I'm going to say GitHub Copilot, if your engineers are not using it, start using it. You are already going to increase 30% capacity. I'm sounding like I'm getting commissions from GitHub. Absolutely, the LLMs, the ChatGPTs and Gemini, I think they have really empowered the companies, and it's all about the context, right? So, and not everybody is going to create LLMs. If somebody is telling you that they are going to create, it's even Apple, largest company in the world, they are looking at partnering with these guys who have built it. But what it has done is it has given the empowerment to everybody. And the winners are going to be who are going to use it with the right context. So the LLM models are as good as your context. So basically, where are you using, what context you are providing, what data you are providing it to it, I think it can be game changer. We are already doing it for servicing, like I said, wherever it fails. These are full rule text. These are paragraphs of rules. So we are putting it in the LLM and trying to give our agents already that this is what we believe it should be, your refund or exchange or penalties. And if you agree, go ahead, do it. So lot of use cases, very exciting.
I think when we're all back together a year from now, maybe, it'll be fascinating to hear what has already developed in that time, because it's moving so fast. So a couple of questions I'd love to just ask each of you as we're getting toward the end of our time. First of all, obviously a lot of airline people here in the audience, all of you work with the airlines. So just finish the sentence for me. I wish airlines would.
Oh, wow.
Glad you got that one first.
Well, I mean, I think the most immediate thing is NDC, right? Is really leaning in and partnering with the channels in which you're hoping to launch your NDC in, and work so closely together at every step of the implementation phase to make sure that your expectations around value creation match kind of the end-to-end process of how that actually looks, how the traveler journey actually looks at every step of the shopping, booking, servicing, traveling journey from the perspective of some of these marketplaces. And a lot of airlines are already very much leaning in, and we've seen a lot of success from that type of strategy. So more of that.
Well, that's tough. I don't want to make anybody mad. I think they need to be equal and collaborative innovators. I tend to think, we tend to wait and see what the other airline or the supplier is going to do, and then we act or we react. I think they need to kind of arm in arm. Of course, there's legal issues there, but just be equal innovators from a user experience perspective, and again, focus on that North Star, to Pashu's point. And to not be afraid of or beholden to these other entities that kind of hold you hostage based on revenue or things that just slow us down and actually disrupt innovation as opposed to promote it.
Okay. And Manish, close us out with that.
I mean, walk the talk. What NDC was meant to be, really embrace it and do it. Not every airline on the same page. I mean, it's there. Get to it. Get alignment across your all organizations, and embrace it and really deliver what it was supposed to be.
Okay. All right. Well, I noticed we have our slide up there. I just want to say I encourage all of you to please go to PhocusWire.com and subscribe for our newsletter to keep up with our coverage of all these topics. You can also subscribe to the newsletter from our sister brand Focusrite for all of their research and to learn about the upcoming Focusrite event in Barcelona in June. I hope to see many of you there. So Manish, Michael, and Kiera, thank you so much.
Thank you.